Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
Oh boy, have we got a juicy edition of Judd's Hockey Show.
It's hot.
Oh my God.
Oh,
It's
hot.
Whew.
Not from the takes. Not necessarily
boy.
the hot takes.
Don't touch the. Ooh, it's hot. Yeah. Who needs hot takes when you've got hot takes coming from the team? This is fantastic. All right. So, as most of you probably know by now, the Wild laid another egg last night. I was there. Declan was trying to watch.
Oh, I watched. No.
Okay.
Look, I have my means. I have my means to watch games.
Well, I knew you were
guess,
trying from the Bally Sports North app, and you paid for it, and you're getting screwed on that. So I'm glad that you found other means to watch it.
Yeah, no, I echo a lot of Minnesota hockey fans that try to use that damn app. I will willingly pay the $20 if you have a very good service, instead of using the means that I use to watch the games for free. And it's fine. I don't mind doing the free method. But I was able to watch it. Yes, I was able to get the game in yesterday.
Okay, well, that's good. And if you hadn't been, you know what? I wouldn't blame you or say that that's bad, because it was a terrible performance in which the Wild lost 5-3, gave up 3 more power play goals. They did post a furious rally, but they have played awful of late. They've looked dead. They look like a bad team. The guys that they signed to extensions before the season, Zuccarello, Foligno, and Hartman, who had to hear the talk about, what is Bill Guerin doing? They have not looked great. Hartman has had his moments. But anyway, long story short, let's get to what's going on right now as we record this and then react. Because we have Dean, if you heard him post-game on Thursday, was pissed off. As mad as I've ever seen his quotes post-game. He ordinarily can get a little bit abrupt, but he was just flat out mad. And he didn't hide it. It was very Yossi-like with his disgust. So today at practice, we have some changes made. And I should mention that Dean did finally in the second period last night juggle his lines. Thank God. But let's get to some quotes. Let's get to some notes, and we'll react. First of all, and this is just a plethora of fantastic Twitter accounts. Let's start with Bally Sports play-by-play man Anthony LaPanta at practice, quoting Dean. Asked about what he hoped to accomplish Friday at practice, Dean said, work. And to make sure we will be ready to go tomorrow, we will be ready tomorrow. And then he continued, we haven't been good enough. We will get better tomorrow. It doesn't matter who was out. We have 20 players in uniform. You either play your ass off or you won't have success. And then our friend from Judd's Hockey Show, Jesse Pierce, went in the locker room and talked to some players, including Matt Zuccarello, who doesn't talk a lot, but when he does talk, can be insightful and curt. Matt Zuccarello, it's not like these guys don't effing work hard. We work hard every day. This is the hardest working team I've been part of. Sometimes when it goes bad, you just work too hard too. And Jesse said he was not, it's not as pissed off as he sounds. He was more just trying to, I don't know, be a captain type because the captain Spurgeon is out. Anyway, Spurgeon not coming back tomorrow. He is eligible now for his LTIR, long-term injured reserve stint to end. It sounds like Damon Hunt, the defenseman, is going to draw into the lineup tomorrow. Probably Merrill or Addison out. And I'm guessing Addison is out. Oh, you know what? No, I take that back because I'm looking at power play combinations, Declan Goff. And the power play combinations, it looks like Kalen has been put on the second power play, and you now are going to have 5 forwards on the first power play. How hot do you think Dean's seat is?
You know what's funny? So you and I plan to do a show on Friday morning early, before everything that has taken place with these quotes and things that are happening at Tree as we speak. And I was going to come on the microphone and tell you we are a Mike Yo B-word fit. I almost said it. S-fit happening on the ice. A meltdown happening on the ice at practice. We are knocking on the door of something significant like that happening. And obviously there weren't cameras in there, and I don't think Dean went full Mike Yo where he was slamming his stick and asking, do you think this is funny playing like this and all that stuff. But that was my grand takeaway coming into this show was we're one game away from something like that happening. And then obviously the nail in the coffin would be that Dean could possibly lose his job. Man, I told you and Jess on Wednesday, I think this is a bad hockey team. Now, I know you called it a furious rally, and it certainly was. In the second and third period last night, they played better than normal, but their first was atrocious. It was a horrible first 20 minutes for the Wild. And then obviously the last 5 minutes were also a disaster. So like if you take the majority of the game, did the Wild play better than the Devils? I actually think yes, they did play better than the Devils, but it wasn't obviously enough to beat a really good Devils team. This is trending towards something that, even though I called it a bad hockey team, we're heading towards a drastic change here if they don't get their act together quickly.
So they are playing like a bad team. They're not this bad. And I keep coming back to coaching. Why did it take until after the first period last night when they came out and laid a complete egg? And that building, I don't think the fans were mad. They just were apathetic. And what I don't understand is why did it take until then to change lines? And oh, by the way, Marco Rossi with Kaprizov looked pretty good. It looked pretty good because Marco Rossi has more talent than Ryan Hartman. Oh, by the way, Ryan Hartman was put on a line with two guys he should play with. But where is the kick in the ass? Where is, and this is the second consecutive year. Last year, they had to go out and get Reeves. And in this case, because of the cap, I don't know what they can or can't do. They can't do much, but where is the kick in the ass? Like, Dean, dude, okay, you can complain all you want, and you might be right. But the fact is, it's up to you to maximize the talent, which means lighting a fire. It means lighting a fire. And, you know, if I'm Bill Guerin, I'm pissed off too because, and I guess I'm partially pissed at myself, but you signed those three guys to extensions right before the season starts. And a lot of people, rightfully so, are like, are you sure that's a good idea? And, you know, aside from Hartman, you got guys that are just sort of, I don't know what to call it, floating around at times. And, you know, you need your coach to do something. And he finally did. And I don't know if it was him or if Bill called down and said, what the hell are we doing here? But like, there is so many things, and Spurgeon's loss hurts, no question about it. But we will continue to say that's not going to fix the entire thing. It feels like it really does. It feels like the Yossi teams where you have a lot of guys floating around like they're good, like they think they're good. And the Kaprizov thing, I got no clue. The Kaprizov thing has me. Well, and he scored a goal last night, but he's turning over the puck. Yeah. But like, when's this? Like, the thing is with Kirill, I think it's going to change. Like, he's too good to play this bad for a really long period of time. But you know, this is the whole, when the Vikings were 1-4, it's like, play for the draft pick, you suck. And then they win 3 consecutive games. I keep waiting for the Wild to sort of come back now, right? Like, it's early still, and it's not for points. You're losing points, but it's early still as far as you've got time to play some good hockey. But I really wonder, you know, if the coach what's the coach doing here? And now it's crisis mode. See, that's the problem now. Now you're juggling things because it's crisis mode. Why weren't you juggling things when it was, we need a spark mode? Why were you waiting? I'm very, very confused about what the Dean strategy is here. And the other thing is, and this is a playoff thing, but it feels like it's translating now. It feels like when things get worse, Dex, like when things aren't going well, Dean doesn't really help with that. Like, I think that he is low. He does not like to, and he's doing it now, but he does not like to criticize his team publicly. But I always feel like when it's a moment of crisis potentially, or a crucial moment, that Dean doesn't diffuse the atmosphere at all. He doesn't help it. Feels like it gets more uptight. And that's one of my things in the playoffs. Like, what goes wrong there? It feels like it's partially on Dean, or largely on Dean.
I didn't agree with the extensions that, I should say, friend of the show, Bill Guerin, made with all these veterans. I did not agree with those extensions. And the Wild, though, have married themselves to those players for the short and long term. Now, Leopold isn't going to fire Guerin for those decisions. And by the way, I think Guerin should take heat for those decisions. I don't like those decisions. I think they're going to come back and bite you. However, They have said that this is going to be our team for the next few years for the most part. They re-signed Zuccarello, they re-signed Ryan Hartman, they re-signed Marcus Foligno. They said this is still going to be our core of players, which is an interesting bet to make for guys that are over 30. And if that's going to be the core, and you're not going to fire and you're not going to make changes to the general manager or hockey ops, then the coach is next in line. Because that's the decision that this team has made, is they're going to bet on these veterans and these forwards. Again, I don't like getting multi-year contracts out to guys who are probably over the hill, which is what they did here. So if that's the case, and we can't go back and resurrect those contracts, then you're going to have to make a coaching change if this trend continues. Now, I don't know who the next man in line would be. I don't know if it's internal.
Dougie Weight, baby. Dougie Weight.
If Bill Guerin has an even external option that he's already starting to spin his hat on. But they're not going to go back and redo these contracts if they can't, and they're not going to fire Bill Guerin. So if this continues, we're recording this on Friday afternoon on November 3rd. If this losing streak continues, I would bet by next Friday, I would bet good money we might see a head coaching change.
And this being hockey, they'll probably win. Like I bet they win tomorrow night against the Rangers. Now the special teams is Well, I'm just saying hockey's weird, man. Guys finally come out with fire. Like if you played with, like last night, if you had played with a modicum of piss and vinegar, you would have had a chance. Because you came out and just got rolled in the first. You no-showed the first. And then, to your point, you sort of came back and look, the Devils are better than you. Jack Hughes is better than anyone you had on the ice. I understand that. But to what you're saying, it's a road game for them. You had a chance. Your penalty kill's absolutely atrocious. You might have to make a change there as well. But so the contracts were Hartman, who actually has held up his end. Like he is Hartman is who he is. Foligno, again, he's been disappointing, but let's talk about the main one. And let's talk about what at least my incorrect perception was at the time and what's happened. Because I think this is the one where Guerin takes the most heat potentially. Matt Zuccarello. And I defended that contract by saying if it makes Kirill happy, if you can, because Kirill is going to, be in need of an extension here himself at some point soon. And if he's happy, most important player, here's what I didn't realize. Both of them were going to come out and cash it in. Like, that's the thing. I mean, Kirill has to pull his head out of his rear end. Yep. He does. But, what's funny, Dex? Zuccarello, I mean, he missed a wide open net again last night. And he's become so pass happy. That's the one that really concerns me. Like, you just signed a guy to an extension who, I don't know, when he's playing well, you're going to get a lot. But if he's over the hill, like if this is what we thought it was when he was trying to play with the broken arm issue, 4 years ago now, that's the one where I think Guerin is going to get a ton of heat because Matt Zuccarello ain't bringing much right now.
No, and we all criticized that contract, the first contract he signed with Paul Fenton, and after year one, you and myself and numerous others like, oh, God, this is going to be bad. And he actually ended up fulfilling that contract obligation. He was fine. He was going to be entering a contract year, and I guess the logic was probably right that they tried to keep Kirill Kaprizov happy, and you don't want to take away his buddy. They do those. They obviously have chemistry. They like each other off the ice. They
peanut butter and jelly commercial.
Yeah, but that's a bad bet to make. Like, I mean, Bill Guerin knows infinite times more hockey than I do, and in terms of signing and development and all that stuff. And I will bow to him in that regard. But I would have loved to have a drink with Bill Guerin and say, Billy, you can't make this move. You cannot re-sign this guy. Regardless of his production, regardless of his chemistry, it's a bad bet to make to give someone who's over 34, 35 years old another contract extension for multiple years. That's the one that bugged me. Like, look, Foligno, Hartman, those have some warts that I don't love. The Zuccarello one is still going to be probably the one that I'm going to hold against him the most.
Now going through 2025-26 with a cap hit in 2024-25 and 2005-26, Declan, of $4.1 million. So, but you know what too? So yes, Bill Guerin deserves heat. Dean Evison deserves heat. But let's talk about Zuccarello and Kaprizov deserve a ton of heat too. Like, oh, okay, if Zuccarello is getting old, that's one thing. But I mean, I'm sorry, man. Watching those guys play, and I mean, Dean was trying, and I didn't agree with it, but he's trying to leave them together on a line. Like, what the? I'm watching it last night. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? I mean, when did Kirill Kaprizov become a turnover machine? So Billy deserves blame. Dean deserves blame, but the players too. The players deserve blame. What are we doing here? When did you two decide to turn into Parisi and Suter?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
so they all deserve as much blame as you can give them, because it's maddening to watch. And Kirill Kaprizov ain't old enough to be falling off any cliff anytime soon.
yeah, Kirill's pressing a little bit more, and I know Kirill has gotten a lot better at speaking English and even just speaking up in general more, because he's obviously been in the States now for like 4 years. But he's yet to really sound off on anything, and he probably won't. And Zuccarello, this is like nothing new. Like Matt's, when he does want to voice his opinion, he's gonna have an opinion. We've seen that in locker rooms. We've seen that at the press conferences, where it's just sometimes even borderline uncomfortable when Matt Zuccarello is pissed off about something. But I think for Kirill, who's obviously pressing here, I don't know. I don't want to label both of those dudes in the Parisi Suter Band-Aid.
Oh yeah, I was joking. I was joking about Kaprizov.
I know you were hyperbolizing a little bit, but still, It's just Kirill is too good of a superstar, and also not as much, at least I don't think, as a pompous ass. I'll just call it bluntly, as those two were.
Yeah, well, and the quote that I read from Zuccarello only bothers me in the fact that I think he should just be blaming himself right now. Like, dude, you're not playing well. You're passing way too much. You are not playing well. Kirill, in quotes, is taking responsibility. So, like, he's saying, and I mean, you gave him an A. I was a champion of that. I said, do that. Up the pressure. And so far he's folded. I fully expect him to come back. All right, let's go through Jesse Pierce for the line heathens, Declan. She's got lines. Let's go through them, okay? Your new first line is Marco Rossi between Kaprizov on the left, Boldy on the right, which is what they went to in the second period against the Devils, and it looks like they're going to stick with that for tomorrow night's game, Saturday night game against the Rangers. Your thoughts on that line?
Yeah, I liked what I saw from the new line of those guys. You got to reward players, and you got to shake things up. Marco's been phenomenal. After, I don't know if it was putting on the size or just getting more comfortable, but he clearly is a much different and better player, and he deserves to play with probably the best player on the team, obviously, and Kirill Kaprizov. And if you want to flank him with Boldy too, that's also a good idea. So yeah, I think that's good. You have to. You absolutely have to at this point. Boldy's back from injury, almost missing a month, and you got to put your best line together. And right now, those are your best three players, obviously, on offense. So pair them together. See what you can do.
Rossi is one of the few, if not only, bright spots so far. Like, he has been, and I think it's his size. I think he's so skilled. But if you're small and not strong,
yeah, you can get pushed around.
It's not necessarily how big you are. It's what you can do physically as well. All right, second line. This is a little bit of a change, I think, from last night. They have now paired Hartman with Johansson and Zuccarello.
Hartman, Johansson, Zuccarello. Yeah.
And Jeek and Joel Eriksson Ek has gone down to the Maroon on the right, Foligno on the left line, which is basically the grief line too.
The grief line. Yeah, and look, Patty Maroon's actually he's got a little more offense than I thought. He got a little more skill than I gave him credit for, even.
Yeah, he does.
He does. So I'm in the camp of breaking up Zuccarello, Kaprizov, and whatever I guess the repercussions in quotes are because of that. I'm willing to take. And I don't hate the basically new grief line with Patty Maroon with Ek and Foligno either. Zuccarello and Kaprizov, though, they have to figure out how to be successful without each other too. That's clear. Like this 10, 11, 12 game sample that we have here, it's clear they cannot be together.
So I didn't like this center flip flop at first, but I think I get it. I think it's more of a what they're trying to attempt to do is get Foligno's game back on track. And the only center he's really played well with is Eriksson Ek. So that's my guess. Like the 1 year that he scored and looked really good was with Ek. So I'm guessing this has less to do with Ek and more to do with the fact that this can be grief line too, and that if Foligno plays like he can, because he can pot some goals. I'm not saying he's going to go back to what he did a couple of years ago. Hartman, Zuccarello, and Johansson is fine. I think ultimately at the end of the day, you need another center. Like Hartman should play, in my opinion, probably should play wing long term. But anyway, and then the fourth line stays the same, which is Duhaime, Dewar, and Letteri. First power play, Kaprizov, Rossi, Joel Eriksson Ek, Boldy, Johansson. No quarterback that I can see.
Right.
5 forwards, which means if you're the Rangers, you're going to be pressuring them to get the puck out because they don't have a defenseman out there.
Yeah, a lot of horses, right? I mean, those are some significant names without a defenseman. And look, that special teams is just awful.
Well, the penalty kill's an embarrassment.
You got to try anything at this point. So if that means putting someone else out there, you got to try it. So we'll see how all 5 of those forwards perform. But I mean, I don't hate it on paper. I really like it. I don't know if it it sounds like more of a fantasy NHL 23 type of situation, a video game style situation. But I mean, if it works, you can try it for sure.
I'd be curious to run a fact-finding check on how many teams do not have a single defenseman on a power play.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know.
Because there's something to be said for knowing, like if all hell breaks loose, there's something to be said for knowing exactly what you're doing. And 5 forwards, like offensive zone-wise, it could be great fun. But if the Rangers break out, like who really knows what they're doing defensively there? And there's a big difference between back checking as a forward and actually playing defense. And then the second power play, Foligno, Maroon, both used. I'd be tempted to go with Maroon. Letteri, Hartman, Zuccarello, Addison. I love Zuccarello being put on the second power play.
Yeah, again, you have to continue to break up Kirill. You can't just put them back together for the power play, especially when they have a passive situation here. So, or a pass first situation here. So,
passive too. You're not wrong about that.
It's both of them.
Basically hit it.
It's interesting though that they're not going to take out Kalen Addison, mostly just because of what he can do on the power play. And I guess I don't fault them to a degree too much there.
So John Merrill probably comes out tomorrow.
Merrill will probably come out, correct?
Which is also fine because that's been rough. All right, your prediction. By the time that we talk next week, does the Wild have this thing? I'm not going to say turned around because that's too aggressive. Have they made positive strides, or are they still going to continue to look like a bungling bunch?
I don't see them beating the Rangers tomorrow at all.
Rangers are a good team.
They're going to come out with a lot of energy, the Wild that is. They're going to try to come out, dominate, win the opening faceoff, get a couple shots on goal and see if they can get a lead early, but I need to see it. You're right that this is a classic Wild or classic hockey situation that they're going to come in with their, keisters on fire and they're going to be ready to roll, but I have yet to see any evidence, even with, gripping the sticks and quotes at practice and all that stuff that suggests that they're going to come out and be ready to rock. I need to see it before I can declare it can happen.
If they don't win tomorrow, they then go on an East Coast trip. Tuesday, Islanders. Thursday, Rangers. Friday, Buffalo. And then they come back home on Sunday the 12th to play the Stars. If the struggles continue through, and let's say they lose tomorrow and let's say they get a point against on the trip. Is Dean Evison the coach when they play the Stars on November 12th?
No. If they lose, how could you not make a change? What would be the reasoning? I guess not to have to make a change there. They'd have to.
I don't know. I can give you one.
Yeah, they'd have to. They'd
Beyond
absolutely have to.
Billy likes Dean, but at some point in time, the pressure's going to get turned up here. If nothing else from Craig Leopold. So, all right. Oof. So that's it. Not necessarily labeled this, but sort of an emergency edition of Judd's Hockey Show because in St. Paul, All hell is breaking loose. Thank you for watching. Declan, tell the people how they can help us here at SKOR North as we continue to grow these various brands.
Yeah, hit the subscribe button. Daily Minnesota Sports, entertainment, offense, pass, shoot, score. Dean, say a prayer, buddy. Get it together.
Say a prayer.